One of the problems of Thames barges is always the potential for losing your topmast. The danger is you've got topsail up, you get caught back by a gust and you're not prepared for it. It's very easy for it to be blown off. But you always have everything put up, your runner backstays, your main shrouds all put up properly to make sure this isn't going to happen. Well, the first time we lost the mast, it was really, I suppose, quite dramatic. We were motoring up towards Fareham and I looked at the chart, all looked fine, we're going to go right up to Fareham. I think the idea was to take the lads from a stag party up to go and do some car racing. Going up the creek, a lot of wind. I suppose mainly rain actually, but it was horrid. I was at the helm, full oilskins on, hood up, etc. Everyone else down below. And suddenly there was a crack and the deck hatches jumped up in the air and I thought, damn it, the sun's obviously played with the gas and blown up and something like that. Anyway, a second later I looked up and I saw what the real problem was. The topmast, or the forestay, had hit one of the hanging cables, 144,000 volts or whatever it was, and there was a lot of smoke and dust. Topmast fell down, forestay was burnt through, and we proceeded on and then anchored, and I think they went off and went on the go-karts or whatever they were. Came back, brought the boat alongside, towed the mast on the way back to Gun Wharf, and then thought what to do. And of course what you then have to do is A, get the gear off it, or the gear off the mast, get the mast out, and at the end it was such an old mast I thought we'd better renew it. So how to renew a mast? Well, you have to buy a tree, and I spec'd to Adstein that I want a tree and it needs to be 34 foot long, and so they felled the tree, became delivered 34 foot long. It was craned onto a lorry on the Chichester bypass, and you can see the pictures of it being carved with a planer to get it back to shape. Took a long time, probably about a couple of months, because I'm not tremendously adept, but using a planer, chisels, drills, all sorts of things. Eventually we had it ready and took it down to Bosham and put it back up again. And putting it back up, we had just had lots of people who, at the right state of the tide, walked the mast onto the boat, handled it up, put it on top of the main mast, which was down of course, and then hoist the whole caboose up, and then hoist the topmast on top. All perfect. But you can imagine putting all the side panels on, the steel side panels where you put the pin through, you've got to have that all done. You've got to shape the bottom of the mast so it can be raised and lowered. You've got to put on the mast cap and shape the mast, top of the mast to fit that, the shrouds, forestay, round backstay, etc. It's a lot of work, so it's the best thing to avoid. We sailed it for a couple of years after that, and that was fine. And then it must have been 3 years ago, we were doing the Yarmouth Gaffers, which was a great sail. Wonderful wind from the north, and we went off on starboard tack heading down towards the Needles. Came back, some more tremendous sailing on port tack, then came round the Eastern Mark jibe and suddenly saw that the cap shroud for the topmast had fallen out of the jaws on the spreader, and I tried to bear away like mad to try and take the weight off the mast, but too late. It blew over to port. And of course we're in a race at the time, so we didn't have much option but had to retire. And then we motored back in alongside the hailing jetty portside too. And the crew, who'd hoped to have a lovely weekend at the Yarmouth Gaffers, actually then set to tremendous. They really helped enormously. We lowered the mast, took the topmast off, took all the gear of the topsail off, put the topmast down on deck, and then hoisted back the main mast, put it up, went to the party in the evening on the Saturday, and then set sail on Sunday back to Gun Wharf, knowing we had to rebuild the topmast. It wasn't going to cost £60 like the first one time we'd broken it. It was going to cost £600 to buy the tree. That, plus the fact that they didn't have any spruce available, I thought, well, maybe we better repair it. So I looked at it and then did a bit of measuring, and in fact it had always been a little bit short, so I thought, well, I better put a bit in the centre. So I cut angles on the top part of the mast and the bottom, and then I kind of made a piece of timber bought from Cover's, a load of 2x4, and then stuck it all together and cut a piece out which would make the mast longer by about 6 to 8 inches. And then I planed back all the surfaces, and at the end I got Steve Benjamin to do the final fitting to make sure it fitted properly. But one thing about a mast, you do need to make sure it is glued well. He did this, and excellent job. Since then it's been fine, and I'd probably like to make a new one sometime, a hollow one, but that's a different matter. The difficulty is it's 33 feet long, and you can't put it on a machine to turn it or do anything like that. You've just got to make it by hand, shape it by hand, and fit all the bits onto it to make it work. and then of course fit it up and hoist it up. It did work, has worked, and we've still got the same mast. The idea now is next year we're going to try and put some dye, some yellow dye, to give it a better sort of views, not like bare wood. The problem with painting the mast is when you hoist the rings, the topsail up with the rings, they tend to jam on the paint. So all top masts aren't painted, none are painted, because if you paint them, the rings jam. So that's a thing for next summer. We're looking at doing that. But so the mast we've got at the moment has been very good, but boy, I'm very careful with it. I make sure any sign of heavy wind, down comes topsail.